answer this for you now. A senior economist at ETM Analytics. It's George Glynos, a regular guest here on the show to join us. George, good to have you with us. And as I've been mentioning on the show, the whole point of wanting to talk to you is to find out for the average person like me. I'm not an economist. I'm not a small business owner. What do I take away from today's speech?
Well, I think there are a few things, really. You guys have been touching on it, but there was a central theme that came through this budget, and I think it was a theme where I think Finance Minister Nene was framing the debates and the negotiations that he's going to be having with the unions and with the different ministries through the course of the next year ahead. And that theme is one of very constrained fiscal space. In other words, there's not much in the way of financial space for expenditures to grow significantly. They've got to do more with less. They've got to focus on efficiencies, focus on accountability. They've got to do all of these things. So it's good to hear him talking in that way. The frustrating thing for me always is whilst I'd give him a very good mark on the way that he presented today and kept it short and to the point and all of that, it always comes down to delivery. So it's one thing to talk about all of this stuff. It's another thing completely to deliver on what's been said. And that's where the government has fallen short in recent years. So for me, it's painting a picture of a very difficult economic climate in which the government has to operate, where unions have to I think, temper their expectations on their wage increases they're going to have, and the different ministries are going to have to try and do a lot more with less funding than they've been used to.
And there's a terrifying three-letter word that every viewer in South African is terrified of. It starts with a T, of course, tax. Yes, no, maybe, lot more, lot less?
Look, I mean, we definitely not in favor of hiking taxes. It has a negative feedback loop into the economy. As it is, I think their growth projections for the next couple of fiscal years are again over-optimistic. So even at 2.5%, we think it's just too high in the context of a global economy that is struggling and is, if anything, going into a cyclical downturn. So we think that they're being over-optimistic on that front. It probably means that their revenues are going to disappoint again, which of course, they have to try and raise capital. And he mentioned very clearly that any balancing of the fiscus or trying to get the fiscal space under control is not going to come on the backs of the poor, which means that it's those of us that earn salaries that are probably going to bear the brunt of it, whether it be by tax increases or whether it be by a rise in the tax burden. I think we need to prepare ourselves for March next year.
All right, we're looking at visuals behind us, as we always do when it comes to tax and it becomes budget speeches. Shopping, buying houses, filling up your car every month. Practical advice from George Glynos this afternoon. What do we need to change, if anything, based on today's speech?
Well, I think it's a warning. I mean, it really is a warning that we've got to, and it sounds rich coming from, us sitting here in a studio. We've both got jobs. We both hopefully living within our means and all of that. But really, it keeps coming back to the same thing. Don't get yourself into any extra debt that you don't need to. The debt that you are in already, try and restructure it in a way that helps you take advantage of the low interest rate environment that we have right now. It's about trying to do as much as you can with as little as you can. And I know that it's difficult for some households, especially when government throws in the likes of your e-tolls and a couple of other sidewinders in there for good measure. But really, that's what it's about. This is not the environment to be very profligate in the way that your spending occurs. It's to try and button down the hatches and live as close to your means as you possibly can.
And that bonus